But without further ado, for the rest of the hour, I am extremely honored to be joined by my favorite country and Western singer and one of my favorite movie stars as well. But really who he is my favorite humanitarian, a person who is so down to earth and so decent, involved in so many great causes that I share and that many others share, Willie Nelson. And Willie Nelson joins us from Texas. Willie, thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure. Good to be here. I'm a little bit late. I apologize for that, but it's good to be with you. How you doing?
Willie, don't worry. I only had 3 heart attacks.
Well, I got hung up a little bit. You know how that goes.
Sir, are you kidding? I'm not 1/10 as busy as you, and I'm constantly forgetting interviews or getting the time zone wrong. This is our 4th interview, and you've always made it, and that's just amazing. Willie, there is so much to talk about, so much going on that is developing. I mean, I've got a big list of questions here that I want to go over with you. But just out of the gates, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. You know, I got some ideas and plans that I think maybe you and your listeners could help me with too. So. As we move along today, I'd like to talk about some of that.
Well, I want to get into the bailout, and I want to talk about the election and the wars and how we're still in Iraq, and I want to talk about how farm aid went bigger than ever this year with Neil Young and others. But let's go ahead now and talk about some of the things and some of the solutions that you've been coming up with. Let's talk about that first today, Willie.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, let us start out with the $700 billion that, we gave somebody. I'm not sure who it was, but whoever has it, I would like, and I have written a letter as president of Farm Aid to whoever controls that money, that we would like to have $1 billion of that 700, and that would leave 699 for whatever they had planned. But $1 billion is, I think, all we'll need to turn the economy around if we start out taking care of our family farmers. We could put 10 million farmers back on the land, making a living out there, raising food and fuel now that we can, raise soybeans, ethanol, whatever they can grow out there, we can use for both food and fuel. And that $1 billion, I think, would go a long way about changing our negative attitudes that we have and the confidence in ourselves and in our country right now. I think if we stopped all the foreclosure, period, and then invested that $1 billion back with our family farmers, I think that we would begin to turn it around.
Well, Willie, you know of what you speak here. You have been studying the family farm and fighting for the family farm, not just in the United States, but worldwide for, I know, more than 3 decades. And you are uniquely suited to speak on this because you were born on a small family farm with a blacksmith shop with your grandfather and grandmother and family in north central Texas during the Depression. And in some of your songs and a lot of your writings, you've documented the fact that the big central banks are not our friends, and that we have to get back to local community, true sustainability. And you have really put your money where your mouth is, your time where your mouth is, and just done so much, raising hundreds of millions of dollars through Farm Aid and other things you're doing for the family farm. So can you speak from your unique perspective growing up, living this life before you became the world-renowned country music singer?
Well, thank you. And also, I believe that, we could talk, the rest of our lives about how we got here. because I think we know and we can put names and faces and places on most of the reasons. But I think if we just say, okay, here we are, let's go forward, and then start thinking positive about everything, that's the first step in turning it around.
Well, I'll tell you what's positive. I talked to multiple members of Congress. They got 1,000-to-1 phone calls against the banker takeover bill, which is really $5 trillion. And so the good news is the American people are not buying in to the banker propaganda, and so they may now be ready to hear some real solutions. With that $1 billion, literal seed money to get the family farm that's nearing extinction jump-started, what are some of the ideas that you have, Willie, to do that?
Well, first of all, we put $10 million. We stopped the foreclosures on the farms and also the houses, because what has happened, it's been a domino effect. Back when we had about 8 or 10 million family farmers on the land, we were pretty good off economically, because the agriculture is the bottom rung on the economic ladder. And so everybody was doing fine. That was back at the end of the war. And then it was decided that those 8 million family farmers out there, most of them Democrats, were just a little bit too much to handle politically. So they decided, and up until then, they were offering all our raw producers in this country a 100% parity, which is that they would pay for the cost and production of whatever the producers had, whether it was farm, steel, coal, whatever it was. They would pay 100% or parity. And that was during the war. When the war was over, they stopped that process and decided, okay, we'll drop that to a 60 or 70% sliding scale. That way they took 2 million farmers off the land immediately.
Well, there's no doubt that the policies in the last 50 years have completely debased and decimated the family farm and ranch. You know, my family on my dad's side from northeast Texas, my mother's side from right here in Austin and surrounding areas out in Fredericksburg. I mean, I have lived in it as well, not to the extent you have, and just seen the destruction of the family farms and the rise of big agribusiness, which is now cramming all this GMO food down our throats. And NAFTA and GATT hasn't just destroyed the family farm and ranch here in the U.S., it's also hurt Mexico. So we know these policies are bad, and we know they're predatory. And we know that you and many others have come up with solutions. And if people go to willienelson.com, you have put a lot of different documents, research, articles up there explaining this to people and showing folks the history. So I want to challenge folks to go to willienelson.com and check out that material. And you also have a lot of information up on the Peace Institute on a host of issues tying into this, getting local control, building back up our communities. Can you imagine, Willie, if they gave the $5 trillion, and they've already doled out over $2 trillion of that, to foreign banks, and then they're cutting off the currency, the liquidity to Main Street and the family farm. By design, I have their documents. They want everything to foreclose and implode, then they can come back with all the money they've amassed and consolidate. So, I mean, I'm trying to be positive here, but I mean, to stop what's happening, we've got to educate the public about who the real enemy is here, who the real fox in the henhouse is.
That's right, and it's like Obama said. He said, let's put out the fire now. We'll figure out who started it later. And that's pretty much what we have to do. We have to stop the fire. We have to stop the bleeding. And I still think the best way to do that is from the ground up. Go back to our family farmer. He's the one that started taking care of us in the beginning. So let's let him do it again.
Willie, I want to talk about biodiesel because I've really studied the issue. A lot of my family works as petroleum geologists and farmers and also in refineries, so I'm somewhat educated on it. And I know that it was speculation and dollar devaluation that drove up oil. They tried to blame it on some of the farmers, having crops turn into ethanol, which I'm for to a certain extent, but they also tried to tie that into biodiesel. Those are two separate things. I mean, biodiesel, which you're an expert in, so I'd like you to speak to it. That's using waste products that just basically get burned or thrown in the landfill or dumped down the drain. Can you explain the difference between the two?
Well, the key words here are local, sustainable agriculture. If you raise it over here and you consume it next door, then you save all the money that it costs for bringing in all your food, all the fuel it costs to bring it in. If you look at your breakfast in the morning, most everything on that plate came from 1,500 miles away. So if you started out with local, sustainable...
We may have lost Willie's cell phone. Willie, are you there?
No, I'm still here. I just sounded like Christmas out there, or ice cream trucks.
Yeah, you're a musician. You were listening to that curious tune. Stay there, Willie. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back and let you finish up with true sustainability, not the globalist counter